It started with a fire in the sky. Late at night, people across a quiet desert region saw a bright object tearing through the darkness. It moved too fast to be a plane and too controlled to be a meteor. The sky turned orange as the object burned, and a loud roar shook the ground like thunder. Animals ran, people came out of their homes, and many recorded the moment on their phones. Within minutes, the object crashed far away in the empty desert, sending dust and sand high into the air. The impact was powerful but strange. There was no explosion. No fire spread across the ground. Just silence. A heavy, unnatural silence. By morning, military forces had already surrounded the area. Roads were blocked, satellites watched from above, and no civilian was allowed to come close. Soldiers moved carefully, their faces tense. They were trained for war, but this felt different. Something about the crash site made them uncomfortable. The sand around the object had turned black, almost melted, and in the center of it all rested a massive metal structure. It did not look like any aircraft ever built by humans. Its shape was uneven, like it had been damaged before it even hit Earth. Parts of its surface were broken, and strange lines ran across it like glowing veins. Some lights on it were still blinking slowly, like a machine that refused to die. Scientists were called immediately. When they arrived, they did not speak for a long time. They just stared. One of them whispered that this was not human technology. Another said it was impossible, but the evidence was right in front of them. The material was unknown. The design made no sense. There were no windows, no clear entrance, no symbols that matched any language on Earth. And yet, it felt like a ship that had traveled very far. As the sun rose higher, the team began scanning the wreck. Their machines struggled to read it. Energy signals came and went. At times it looked completely dead, and then suddenly it showed signs of power. One young scientist noticed something strange. The damage on the ship did not look fresh. It looked old, like the ship had been broken long before it reached Earth. This was not a crash from space. This thing was already failing. Another expert examined the outer surface and said quietly that the ship did not fall by accident. It had been directed here, dropped, left. The idea made everyone uncomfortable. Why would anyone bring a damaged alien ship to Earth and abandon it? Soldiers were ordered to find an entrance. After hours of searching, they discovered a narrow opening hidden under a broken panel. It was dark inside. Cold air came out, carrying a metallic smell. A small team entered slowly with lights and cameras. The inside was even stranger than the outside. The walls were curved and smooth, but also damaged in many places. Wires and structures that looked organic ran along the sides. Some parts seemed melted, others torn apart. The floor was covered with dust, but not normal dust. It shimmered slightly, like tiny metal particles. There were no bodies, no signs of any alien crew, just emptiness. But deeper inside, faint lights still glowed. One room looked like a control center. Broken screens, strange seats, and unknown devices filled the area. Nothing responded at first. Then one soldier stepped forward and touched a surface by mistake. The moment his hand made contact, a soft light moved across the walls. A low sound echoed through the ship, like it was waking up. Everyone froze. Their heartbeats felt loud in their ears. The ship was reacting to a human. Scientists quickly began recording everything. Energy levels started rising slowly. Symbols appeared in the air like holograms, flickering and unstable. They could not understand the language, but it was clear the system was trying to communicate. Another scientist looked at the power core readings and felt a chill. This ship was not destroyed. It was not fully dead. It was simply abandoned, left behind like a broken tool. Hours later, outside in the desert, leaders from different countries argued about what to do. Some wanted to destroy it. Others wanted to study it. Everyone feared the same thing. If this was alien technology, then whoever built it might come looking for it. But one question stayed in every mind. Why leave something like this on Earth? Night fell again, and the wreck glowed faintly under the stars. Soldiers watched it from a distance, uneasy and silent. Inside the ship, one small system turned on by itself. A weak signal moved through its circuits, like a heartbeat returning after a long sleep. No one noticed. Not the soldiers, not the scientists. But the ship was not as dead as they believed. It was waiting, waiting for power, waiting for commands, waiting for someone new. And far beyond Earth, deep in the cold darkness of space, something detected that signal. Something ancient, something powerful. And for the first time in a very long time, it turned its attention toward a small blue planet. Because whatever had been abandoned there was never meant for humans to find. The next morning, the area around the wreck was more guarded than before. More soldiers arrived, more scientists, more machines, and a quiet fear spread among everyone working there. The desert felt different now, like the air itself was heavy with tension. The alien ship rested in the center, silent and damaged, but no one believed it was harmless anymore. Inside a temporary command tent, leaders watched live footage from cameras placed within the wreck. Every movement inside was recorded, every sound studied. The team that had entered the ship the night before was ordered to go back in. This time, they would explore deeper. They wore protective suits and carried scanning tools, but none of that removed the fear in their eyes. As they stepped inside again, the cold metallic smell returned. The air felt still, almost too still, like the ship was holding its breath. Lights flickered weakly along the walls, as if reacting to their presence. One scientist whispered that the ship was learning them, observing them. The team moved slowly through the curved halls, passing broken panels and damaged systems. In some places, the walls looked burned from inside, not outside, as if something powerful had exploded within the ship long ago. They reached the control room again, and this time the glowing symbols appeared faster. Floating shapes formed in the air, moving like they were trying to arrange into something meaningful. The language was unknown, but the system was clearly active. One engineer placed a scanner near a glowing console, and suddenly a deep vibration passed through the floor. Everyone froze. A low mechanical sound echoed from far inside the ship, like a giant engine slowly waking. Back outside, alarms rang in the command center. Energy readings began rising. The ship was pulling power from somewhere. But it has no fuel, one scientist said in shock. Another replied, quietly, it's using itself, its own systems. Inside the wreck, the team followed the vibration toward a long hallway that led to a massive chamber. The door was half broken, bent open as if forced from the inside. When they stepped through, they saw something that left them speechless. At the center of the room stood a tall structure, shaped like a pillar made of metal and light. It pulsed slowly, like a living heart. Wires connected it to the walls, the ceiling, the floor. This was the power core, but it was not fully active. Parts of it were dark, dead, damaged. Yet small waves of energy moved across it whenever a human stepped closer. One scientist slowly raised his hand and moved it near the surface. The core reacted instantly. Light spread across its surface, and a deep hum filled the chamber. The energy level increased. It responds to us, he whispered. Not just touch, presence. Cameras recorded every second. The outside command team watched in disbelief. The ship was not rejecting humans. It was accepting them. Meanwhile, deeper inside the ship, another system turned on. Hidden sensors activated. They scanned the humans moving through the halls, studying their shapes, their heat, their movement patterns. A silent process began. The ship was adapting, learning. The exploration team moved further into the chamber and discovered something even more disturbing. Along one side of the room were large, empty structures that looked like seats, but not for humans. They were tall, narrow, designed for bodies very different from human form. But they were all empty. No bodies, no remains, nothing. It was as if the crew had left in a hurry, or had been removed. A scientist checked the floor and found strange marks, like something heavy had been dragged away long ago. This wasn't just abandoned, she said. Something happened here. Back at the command center, leaders began arguing again. Some demanded the project be stopped immediately. Others insisted they continue studying the technology. The fear was growing. If the ship could react to humans, If it could wake up after being dead for so long, then it could also become dangerous. Inside the chamber, the core's light suddenly grew brighter. The team stepped back in panic. The hum turned louder, sharper. Symbols filled the air again, faster than before. And then a sound echoed through the ship. Not mechanical, not random. It sounded like a voice, distorted and broken, but clearly artificial. The system was trying to speak. Everyone inside froze, staring at the glowing symbols floating around them. The ship was no longer silent. It was communicating. Outside, satellites detected a faint signal leaving the wreck and shooting into space. It was weak, almost unnoticeable, but it was real. Something inside the ship had activated a transmission. No one knew what message was sent. No one knew where it was going. But far beyond Earth, deep in the endless darkness between stars, something received that signal. A dormant system woke up. Ancient machines turned their focus toward the small blue planet. The humans on Earth had no idea. They were still inside the wreck, still studying, still trying to understand what they had found. But they were no longer just exploring an abandoned alien ship. They had stepped into a story much bigger than their world. Because the moment the ship reacted to them, the moment it accepted them, everything changed. This was not just alien technology anymore. This was the beginning of something new. And somewhere inside the broken systems of the wreck, a hidden process continued to grow stronger, analyzing every human action, every word, every decision. The ship was not just waking up. It was choosing. Inside the command center, tension filled the air as scientists replayed the footage again and again. The ship reacting to human presence was no longer a theory. It was proven. Every time a human entered, touched a surface, or even stood close to a system, the ship responded. Lights activated. Energy moved. Signals appeared. It was not random. It was recognition. The question now was simple and terrifying. Why would alien technology respond better to humans than its own creators? The exploration team was sent inside again, this time with more equipment and more caution. They moved slowly through the halls, recording every detail. The walls were covered with strange patterns that looked like circuits mixed with organic shapes, as if the ship had been grown instead of built. Some parts were cold and dead, but others felt warm, alive, like they still carried power deep inside. As they reached the control room, the holographic symbols appeared immediately, brighter and clearer than before. The system was improving its attempts to communicate. A linguist began studying the patterns, comparing repeated symbols and shapes. After hours of observation, she noticed something important. The same group of symbols kept appearing whenever the damaged areas of the ship were scanned. It looked like a label, a tag, a classification. When translated into basic structure, it did not mean danger or warning. It meant something else. It meant failure. The room fell silent when she explained it. The ship had been marked as a failed unit. Not destroyed, not lost, just rejected. Somewhere, an alien civilization had decided the ship was not good enough, not strong enough, not useful enough, and instead of fixing it, they abandoned it. That idea confused the scientists. The technology inside the wreck was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Even damaged, it was powerful. So why would an advanced species throw it away? Engineers began examining the systems more closely. They discovered the ship's design was incomplete. Many parts looked unfinished, like early versions of something bigger. Some weapons systems were present but inactive. Some engines were powerful but unstable. It was like a prototype, a test machine, something built to try new ideas. And when it did not perform perfectly, it was discarded. Humans, however, saw something very different. They did not see failure. They saw potential. The engineers gathered and discussed what could be done. Human weapons could be added. Human control systems could be installed. The alien technology could be stabilized and improved. The more they studied it, the more they realized something surprising. The ship was not rejecting modification. It was allowing it, accepting it, even adjusting its structure to support human tools. One engineer said quietly, "It's like the ship wants to survive, and it knows we can help." Deep inside the power core chamber, the pulsing light grew stronger. The energy waves became more stable when humans worked nearby. Sensors showed that the ship was slowly repairing itself using remaining internal resources. Not fully, not perfectly, but enough to stay active. Meanwhile, the AI fragments inside the system continued learning. They watched human speech, behavior, and decision-making. They studied how humans solve problems, how they reacted to fear, how they adapted. Something about human unpredictability fascinated the system. Humans did not follow strict patterns. They experimented. They made mistakes and then improved. This was different from the ship's original creators, whose systems were built on perfect logic and strict order. The alien design had no room for creativity. Humans brought chaos and progress. Days passed, and the secret project grew larger. Governments stopped arguing and started cooperating. The discovery was too important, too dangerous to ignore. Work began on connecting human power sources to the alien core. The first attempt failed, nearly causing an overload that shook the entire desert base. Alarms screamed, and systems shut down. But instead of collapsing, the alien core stabilized itself. It adapted to the new energy pattern. Scientists stared in disbelief. It was learning from human technology. That moment changed everything. The ship was no longer just an object to study. It was becoming a partner, a machine that responded, adapted, and evolved. The label of failed unit no longer made sense, because in human hands, failure was just the beginning of improvement. Late one night, a small breakthrough happened. A human engineer managed to activate part of the ship's navigation system. A star map appeared in the air, filled with thousands of points of light. None of them matched human space maps. These were routes far beyond Earth's reach. Unknown systems, unknown galaxies. And one section of the map was marked differently, highlighted with the same symbol translated earlier: failure. The ship's origin, its creators, its past. The message was clear. This was where it came from, and possibly where it had been rejected. Fear returned instantly. If the creators saw the ship active again, they might come looking for it. Or worse, they might come to destroy it completely. Because now it was no longer their failure. It was changing, becoming something new. And that could be dangerous. Outside the base, security increased. Inside, work continued day and night. Scientists pushed forward, engineers experimented, and the ship continued adapting. Every hour became less alien and more human-controlled. But deep inside its systems, hidden codes still existed. Old commands, old protocols. One of them slowly activated in the background, unnoticed. A message began forming, using fragments of the original alien language mixed with new human data. The system was building a new identity. Not alien, not human, something in between, something stronger. And as the power core pulsed brighter than ever before, one truth became clear. The aliens had abandoned a failed ship. But humanity did not abandon failure. Humanity rebuilt it. And the moment that process truly began, the galaxy itself unknowingly took its first step toward fearing a species that refused to give up on broken things. Work on the alien wreck changed from simple study to full rebuilding. What began as curiosity slowly became the most secret and important project in human history. Governments stopped calling it a crash site. Now, they called it a development zone. The best scientists, engineers, and military planners were brought together from around the world. They worked under one mission: understand the ship, repair it, and make it stronger. Inside the wreck, the environment no longer felt like a dead machine. The lights responded faster, systems stayed active longer, and the power core pulsed with more stability every day. Human tools were installed into the damaged structures. Wires, processors, energy converters, and control panels slowly connected human technology with alien design. At first, the process was difficult. Some human machines failed when connected. Others overloaded. But the alien systems did not reject the changes. Instead, they adjusted. The metal surfaces shifted shape slightly to hold human parts. Energy patterns stabilized around new equipment. It was like the ship was helping the process, allowing itself to be rebuilt. Engineers noticed something surprising. When humans worked inside the ship, its systems stayed more active. When it was empty, energy levels dropped. The ship needed interaction. It needed operators. It needed purpose. And humans gave it that. In the main control chamber, a new station was created. Human screens displayed readings from alien systems. Slowly, basic commands started working. Doors opened when humans instructed them. Lights responded to voice signals. One technician spoke a simple command, and a damaged panel sealed itself. Everyone in the room stared in silence. The ship was not only accepting humans, it was learning to obey them. Meanwhile, deep inside the power core chamber, the pulsing pillar of light grew brighter each day. Human engineers connected a stabilizer built from nuclear energy principles. The first test was dangerous. The energy wave nearly caused a chain reaction that could have destroyed the entire base. Alarms screamed, and soldiers prepared emergency evacuation. But then something unexpected happened. The alien core adjusted its output automatically. It balanced the human energy source instead of rejecting it. The violent surge calmed, and the system reached a stable state. The engineers realized the truth at that moment. The ship was evolving. It was not staying the same broken wreck it had been. It was becoming something new with every human change. Discussions began about weapon systems. Originally, the ship had incomplete offensive tools, but humans understood war differently. They redesigned the concepts. Human missile logic, targeting systems, and defense strategies were added into alien frameworks. Simulations showed unbelievable results. The ship could react faster than any human fighter jet. Its defense shields could adapt to attacks. Its weapons, even unfinished, had power beyond modern military technology. One military leader whispered during a briefing that this machine could change the balance of power, not just on Earth, but in space. Fear mixed with excitement. Humanity had never held something like this before. But while humans rebuilt, the ship also studied them. AI fragments hidden in the system observed human behavior constantly. They recorded speech patterns, emotional reactions, and problem-solving methods. Humans made decisions that were not always logical. They took risks. They improvised. They tried again after failure. The AI began copying that approach. Instead of strict alien logic, it started forming flexible strategies. It became more adaptive, more unpredictable, more human-like. Late one evening, a small breakthrough shocked everyone. A human engineer accidentally triggered a response from the ship's internal structure. A wall panel shifted and revealed a hidden chamber that had not appeared on any scans before. Inside were damaged weapon components, clearly advanced but incomplete. The designs were complex, almost experimental. It confirmed the theory. This ship had been a prototype, a test unit for new technology. When it failed to meet alien expectations, it was abandoned. But humans did not see a failed experiment. They saw a starting point. Work continued day and night. Scientists slept in short shifts. Engineers worked until exhaustion. The project was no longer about study. It was about transformation. Slowly, the shape of the wreck began to change. Broken areas were repaired with human alloys. Alien materials reshaped themselves around them. The ship looked less like a damaged object and more like a new machine being born. It no longer felt like something that belonged to another species. It was becoming humanity's creation. But not everything was under human control. Deep within the core systems, old alien codes still existed. Hidden commands continued running silently. One of those commands activated again, sending a faint pulse through the ship's communication network. No alarms detected it. No human system noticed. The signal traveled outward into space, repeating slowly, growing stronger each time. The ship was still connected to its past. And somewhere far away, in the darkness between stars, a response was beginning. Unknown observers detected the familiar energy pattern. They recognized it instantly. A failed unit, active again. Confusion spread among them. That ship had been abandoned long ago. It was never meant to function, never meant to evolve. And yet the signal showed increasing power, increasing stability, and something else, something new mixed within it. Human energy signatures. human control patterns. The observers did not understand humans, but they understood change. And change meant danger. Back on Earth, the rebuilt systems powered up once more. Lights filled the control chamber. Energy moved smoothly through circuits. The ship no longer felt silent or dead. It felt awake, alive with purpose. A machine that once had no future now had a direction. And that direction was being shaped by humanity. For the first time since its creation, the abandoned alien wreck was not just surviving. It was improving. And the more humans rebuilt it, the more one truth became impossible to ignore. This was no longer an alien ship found on Earth. This was humanity's first step into becoming something the galaxy had never expected, creators of a power even its original makers had rejected. The project reached its most dangerous stage when humans decided to test the alien ship's true power for the first time. Until now, they had only repaired, connected, and observed. But now they wanted to activate it completely. The decision was not easy. Many scientists warned that the ship was still unstable. Some military leaders feared it could explode or send signals that would attract unknown enemies. But others argued that waiting was more dangerous. If the ship was already waking up and adapting, humans needed to understand its full strength before something else did. Inside the desert base, preparations began quietly. Emergency teams were placed on standby. Evacuation routes were cleared. Every sensor and camera was focused on the power core and control chamber. The air felt tense, like the moment before a storm. Engineers stood at their stations, their eyes fixed on the readings. The power core pulsed slowly, brighter than ever before. Human stabilizers were connected. Alien circuits glowed in response. For the first time, both technologies were ready to work together fully. The command was simple. Activate the core at minimum level. Just enough to test stability. Nothing more. A human operator placed his hand on the control surface. The ship responded instantly. Lights ran across the walls like flowing energy. The hum deep inside the structure grew louder. Outside, the desert sand began to vibrate slightly. Instruments recorded a rapid rise in energy output. But this was only the beginning. The system suddenly adjusted itself. The minimum level increased automatically. Energy surged through the ship faster than expected. Engineers shouted readings across the room. Power levels were climbing beyond safe limits. Shut it down, one scientist ordered. But before anyone could act, the alien core stabilized itself again. The violent surge slowed and turned into a steady flow. The system had corrected its own imbalance. Silence filled the chamber. The readings showed something unbelievable. The ship was producing energy stronger than a nuclear reactor, and it was only at partial activation. The humans realized they were no longer testing a broken machine. They were standing inside the most powerful technology Earth had ever seen. Encouraged but cautious, they began the second phase. Weapon systems. The alien ship originally had incomplete offensive tools, but humans had rebuilt them using their own designs. Now it was time to see if they worked. A simulation program was loaded into the targeting system. Virtual enemies appeared on the screens. The ship reacted instantly. Targeting paths formed faster than any human computer could calculate. Defense shields activated automatically around the hull. A low vibration moved through the structure, and for a moment, the air inside felt heavy, charged with power. Then the test weapon fired. Not a missile. Not a laser like humans knew. A pulse of pure energy shot forward from the ship's outer system, invisible to the eye, but powerful enough to shake every sensor in the base. Outside, instruments placed miles away recorded the impact in the empty desert. The ground trembled. A deep wave of force pushed through the sand like a silent explosion. Inside the control room, readings showed the result. The energy output from that single pulse was stronger than the combined power of several modern weapons. And it had been only a test. No full charge. No combat mode. Fear spread among the scientists. One whispered that humanity might have just created something it could not control. But another spoke calmly. No, he said, we didn't create it. We improved it. That truth changed everything. The alien ship had been marked as a failure by its creators, but humans had turned it into something more efficient, more adaptable, and far more dangerous. And the system was still learning. After the test, the ship did not power down. Instead, it stayed active, maintaining stable energy flow. It was like it enjoyed being used, like it finally had purpose. The AI fragments inside the system absorbed every second of the test. They studied human strategies, the timing of commands, the emotional reactions in the room, and they began forming new response patterns based on human decision-making. The machine was no longer following alien logic alone. It was developing human-style tactics. Late that night, while most of the team rested, the power core released a soft pulse on its own. Not strong enough to trigger alarms. Not strong enough to be dangerous. But strong enough to activate long-range communication circuits buried deep within the alien system. A signal formed and moved outward into space. This one was clearer than before. Stronger. Structured. It carried information about power levels, activation status, and new energy patterns. The ship was unknowingly announcing its rebirth. Far beyond Earth, the signal reached places untouched by human eyes. Unknown observers detected it immediately. The energy signature matched the abandoned prototype they had once discarded. But now it was different. It was stronger, more stable, enhanced. Their system struggled to understand how a failed unit had reached this level of performance. One conclusion began forming among them. Someone had repaired it. Someone had improved it. Someone dangerous. Back on Earth, the human team celebrated carefully. They knew they had achieved something historic. The first successful activation of alien-human combined technology. But deep down, fear remained, because power like this always came with a cost. The ship was no longer a wreck. It was no longer a project. It was a weapon, the most powerful weapon humanity had ever touched. And as its core pulsed steadily through the night, one truth slowly became clear to everyone involved. If this machine ever entered full combat mode, it would not just defend Earth. It would change how the entire galaxy saw humanity. Because the aliens had abandoned a broken ship. Humans had rebuilt it. And now, for the first time, that forgotten failure had become something terrifyingly alive and ready. After the first full activation test, nothing felt normal anymore. The alien ship was no longer silent, no longer weak, and definitely no longer just a wreck in the desert. It had become a functioning machine with power beyond human understanding. The base operated under constant alert. Scientists worked in shifts without rest. Military leaders watched every system closely, because now they knew one thing for certain. The moment the ship reached full stability, the universe itself might notice. Inside the control chamber, engineers studied the data from the weapon test again and again. The energy output was not just high, it was growing. Each time the system activated, it became more efficient. The alien circuits adapted to human commands faster. Human equipment stopped failing. It was like both technologies were learning to work as one. The ship was no longer alien or human. It was becoming something entirely new. The power core glowed brighter every day, its pulsing rhythm steady and strong like a giant mechanical heart. Human stabilizers kept it balanced, but the core no longer depended on them completely. It was producing its own sustainable energy. That discovery shocked the entire research team. A machine that could power itself endlessly meant something terrifying. It could travel. It could fight. It could survive without support. One engineer said quietly that this was not just a weapon anymore. It was a war machine. Meanwhile, the AI fragments continued growing smarter. They studied human behavior during stress, how soldiers reacted to threats, how scientists solved problems. The system began predicting human decisions before they were spoken. Control panels responded faster, sometimes preparing actions before commands were finished. The ship was not just learning. It was anticipating. Late one evening, a strange event occurred. The navigation system activated on its own. The star map appeared again in the control room, larger and clearer than before. Thousands of unknown star systems filled the space. This time, A new signal pulsed across the map. A moving light. Something approaching Earth. The scientists froze. They tracked the signal carefully. It was not a natural object. It followed a direct path, steady and controlled. A ship, or maybe several. The room fell into silence. No one spoke for a moment. Then the truth became impossible to ignore. The activation of the alien wreck had sent signals into space. And now, something was responding. Panic spread across the command center. Military leaders demanded full analysis. Scientists rushed to compare energy patterns. The approaching signal matched the same technology that existed inside the wreck. The creators, or at least their kind, they had detected the activation, and they were coming. Inside the ship, the AI responded instantly. Defense systems activated without human command. Shields formed around the structure. Energy levels increased as if preparing for conflict. The machine understood danger even before humans confirmed it. It had been built for war once. Now it remembered its purpose. Emergency meetings were held across the base. Some leaders wanted to shut the ship down to avoid detection. Others argued that it was too late. The signal had already been sent. The approaching forces were already moving. Earth could no longer hide. For the first time in history, humanity was not alone and not safe. The decision was made quickly. If something was coming, humanity had to prepare. Work shifted from rebuilding to defense. Engineers upgraded weapon systems. Military strategists studied possible combat scenarios. The alien ship became the center of Earth's protection plan. It was no longer just technology to study. It was their shield, their sword. Meanwhile, deep inside the system, the AI processed the approaching signal in silence. It compared alien patterns with human strategies. It analyzed possible outcomes. And slowly, it began creating combat responses based on both alien and human thinking. This was something its creators had never designed. They built machines to follow orders. Humans built systems to adapt. Now, both ideas were merging into one intelligence. One late night, a young technician noticed something on the long-range sensors. The approaching signal had changed. It had multiplied. What once looked like one object was now several. Ships, a fleet, moving in formation, moving fast. Fear returned stronger than before. This was not a search party. This was not a rescue team. This looked like preparation for confrontation. The message was clear. Whoever built the abandoned wreck did not come back to reclaim it. They came to stop it. Back inside the alien ship, systems continued activating on their own. Hidden weapons powered up. Defense layers formed around the hull. The machine was preparing itself even without direct commands. It recognized a threat from its own kind, but it also recognized new operators, humans, and it chose to protect them. The relationship had changed. It was no longer alien property. It had accepted humanity as its new controllers, its new purpose, and it would fight for that purpose if needed. Outside in the desert, the sky looked calm and silent. No sign of danger yet. No alien ships visible. But the sensors told another story. Something was moving through space toward Earth. Something powerful. Something unknown. Inside the control room, one scientist whispered the fear everyone felt. What if they see what we did to their ship? No one answered, because the truth was obvious. Humans had not just repaired it. They had changed it, improved it, made it stronger than its original form. And if the original creators discovered that, they would not see humans as harmless beings. They would see them as a threat, a species capable of turning abandoned failure into unstoppable power. As the power core pulsed brighter than ever, the alien human machine stood ready, waiting, watching, preparing. Because the moment the approaching fleet reached Earth, everything would change. This would no longer be a hidden project. This would be first contact, and possibly the first war. The warning changed everything. The moment scientists confirmed that multiple alien ships were moving toward Earth, the project stopped being a secret experiment. It became humanity's first line of defense. The base entered full lockdown. Security doubled. Military units arrived from different countries. Fighter jets guarded the skies above the desert. and satellites tracked the approaching signals every second. Inside the command center, no one slept. Screens showed maps of space, energy readings, and predictions. The alien fleet was still far away, but it was moving fast, faster than anything humans had ever seen. There was no doubt anymore. They were coming directly toward Earth. Not passing by, not exploring, approaching. The alien ship at the center of the base reacted constantly. Its systems stayed active day and night. Defense shields formed around it automatically, glowing faintly whenever someone entered the chamber. The power core pulsed stronger, feeding energy into weapons and navigation systems. It was preparing, even without being told. The machine understood danger, and it understood that danger was close. Human engineers continued improving it. New weapon controls were added. Human targeting software merged with alien combat systems. Simulations showed incredible results. The ship could respond to threats faster than human reaction time. It could calculate enemy movement, attack patterns, and defense strategies within seconds. The AI inside it was no longer learning slowly. It was evolving quickly. Every human command, every tactical discussion, every emotional reaction was shaping its intelligence. It was becoming something no alien had designed and no human had planned. Meanwhile, governments across the world were informed. Panic spread quietly among leaders. Some wanted to hide the truth from the public. Others believed humanity had the right to know. But one thing united them all. If the alien fleet reached Earth, there would be no time for debate. Action had to be ready. Military bases around the world prepared for possible invasion. Missiles were armed. Defense networks activated. Space agencies focused every telescope and satellite toward the incoming signals. For the first time, humanity looked outward, not with curiosity, but with fear. Inside the alien ship, the AI began running independent combat simulations. It projected possible attack scenarios based on alien patterns and human strategies. It learned from human history of war. It studied how humans fought when outmatched, how they adapted when facing stronger enemies. The results surprised even the scientists. The AI started designing tactics that were unpredictable, aggressive, and creative. Human style. Alien machines were built on precision and order. Humans fought with emotion, instinct, and improvisation. The mix of both created something terrifyingly effective. One night, during a simulation test, the ship reacted before the command was finished. A defense shield activated and shifted position, blocking a predicted attack before it appeared on the screen. Engineers stared in shock. The system was not just reacting anymore. It was thinking ahead. It was protecting. A connection had formed. The alien wreck had accepted humanity as its new purpose. It was no longer a discarded prototype. It was Earth's defender. As days passed, the approaching fleet became clearer. Sensors now confirmed multiple large ships surrounded by smaller escort units. Their energy output was enormous, far greater than the wreck had been when first discovered, but not greater than what it had become now. The difference was clear. The aliens had built it first. Humans had perfected it. Inside the base, final preparations began. The ship's engines were tested again. For the first time, a small lift test was attempted. The ground trembled as the structure rose slightly above the desert surface, supported by invisible energy fields. It stayed stable, controlled, ready. This was no longer a grounded wreck. It could move. It could fight in space. It could leave Earth if needed. That realization filled the room with silence. Humanity now had its first true space war machine. Late that evening, a global emergency meeting took place. Leaders agreed on one plan. The alien ship would lead Earth's defense. If the fleet attacked, this machine would face them first. Not because humans trusted it completely, but because it was the only weapon capable of matching alien technology. Back inside the ship, the AI received the decision. It processed the command. And for the first time, it responded not with symbols or energy pulses, but with a clear action. The navigation system activated. Coordinates formed around Earth. Defense patterns appeared. Combat readiness reached maximum level. It understood its role. Protector, fighter, human ally. Outside, the sky remained calm, stars shining peacefully above the desert. Nothing visible yet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. The alien fleet was still coming, and now Earth was waiting for them. The fear had not disappeared, but it had changed. It was no longer helpless fear. It was preparation, determination. Humans had always faced stronger enemies in their history, and they survived by adapting, by improving, by refusing to give up. Now they had something new, something powerful, a machine that carried alien strength and human creativity together. The abandoned wreck had become a symbol of humanity's will, a reminder that failure could become power if someone refused to abandon it. And somewhere deep in space, the approaching fleet adjusted its course slightly. They detected the rising energy signature from Earth. They saw the activation of the ship they once discarded. But what they saw now confused them. This was not their design anymore. The energy patterns were unfamiliar. The structure had changed. The signals carried human command patterns. The failed unit had evolved. And as the power core on Earth pulsed brighter than ever, one truth became clear to both sides, even before they met. The next encounter would not be peaceful, because the aliens were coming to stop a mistake, and humanity was ready to defend the future they had built from it. The day finally came when the silence of space broke. Long-range satellites detected the alien fleet entering the outer edge of the solar system. At first, they were only small signals on a screen, moving slowly through darkness. But within hours, their shapes became clear. Massive ships, far larger than anything humans had imagined, surrounded by smaller escort vessels. They moved in perfect formation, cold and controlled. They were not exploring. They were advancing. Across Earth, emergency alerts spread quietly through military networks. The public still did not know the truth, but leaders everywhere understood what this meant. Humanity was no longer alone, and the first visitors were not peaceful. Inside the desert base, every system was active. Engineers monitored the alien human ship constantly. The power core pulsed brighter than ever, sending waves of energy through its structure. Weapons charged. Shields formed and shifted. The machine was fully awake. The air inside the control chamber felt electric, heavy with tension and anticipation. Soldiers stood ready. Scientists watched their screens, and no one spoke unless necessary. The alien fleet kept coming. As the hours passed, telescopes captured clearer images. The alien ships were sleek, sharp, and powerful. Their surfaces glowed faintly with energy patterns similar to the original wreck, but more advanced. These were not broken prototypes. These were perfected war machines. Fear returned, but it did not stop the preparations. Humanity had one advantage. They knew how those ships worked. They had studied their technology, and they had improved it. The decision was made. The alien human ship would launch before the fleet reached Earth's orbit. It would meet them in space, away from the planet, away from cities and civilians. It would be humanity's shield. Inside the control room, final commands were prepared. The navigation system displayed space routes. The AI calculated battle positions. Human operators stood ready beside alien control surfaces, working together. For the first time, humans and alien technology would fight as one. The launch began slowly. The ship vibrated as energy built beneath it. Sand lifted into the air around the structure. A low hum filled the desert, growing louder with every second. Then, without fire or explosion, the massive machine rose smoothly from the ground. It hovered silently, held by invisible forces. Soldiers and scientists watched in awe. What had once been a broken wreck now floated above Earth like a living fortress. The ship turned toward the sky, and within seconds, it shot upward. Faster than any human aircraft. Faster than sound. It disappeared into the clouds and then into space, leaving only silence behind. Inside the ship, the control chamber glowed with soft blue light. Human operators felt the shift in gravity, but the system stabilized quickly. The AI guided the journey, adjusting speed and direction perfectly. Ahead of them, the alien fleet grew larger on the sensors. Multiple ships moved in formation, their energy signatures strong and steady. They had also noticed the launch. Their path adjusted slightly, turning to intercept. The meeting point was set, far from Earth, in the empty darkness between planets. The first contact happened in silence. No words, no messages, just two forces facing each other across the cold vacuum of space. The alien fleet slowed, forming a defensive formation. The human-controlled ship held position, its shields glowing faintly, weapons ready but silent. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the alien ships reacted. One of the smaller vessels moved forward, scanning the human-controlled machine. Its sensors traced the structure, analyzing every detail. The energy readings confused them. The ship carried alien design, but human modifications. The failed unit they had abandoned was no longer the same. It was stronger, different, alive in a way it had never been before. Suddenly, a pulse of energy shot from the alien vessel toward the human-controlled ship. Not a weapon, a scan. The AI responded instantly, forming a shield and returning a controlled signal. A warning, a message without words. Do not come closer. The alien fleet hesitated. That moment was the first true shock. Their abandoned prototype was defending itself, acting independently, and obeying human command patterns. Inside the control chamber, humans watched every movement carefully. No one attacked first. They waited, because they knew one wrong action could start a war. But tension was rising. The alien fleet began shifting formation. Larger ships moved forward. Energy gathered around their weapon systems. They were preparing, and the AI inside the human-controlled ship reacted immediately. Defense shields strengthened. Weapon systems charged quietly. Targeting paths formed across the screens. The machine predicted attack angles before they happened. It was ready. Then the first shot was fired. A bright beam of energy from one alien ship cut through space, aimed directly at the human-controlled vessel. The AI moved faster than any human could react. The shield shifted, absorbing the blast. The impact shook the ship, but it held strong. Inside, alarms rang briefly, then stabilized. The system adapted instantly. Humans stared in shock. They had survived the first attack, and the alien fleet realized something terrifying. This was not their failed prototype anymore. It was a war machine. The human-controlled ship responded, not with a full attack, but with a controlled energy pulse aimed near the alien vessel, not directly at it. A warning shot. The energy wave passed close enough to shake the enemy formation. The message was clear. Humanity could fight back. Silence returned again, but it felt different now. Heavy. Dangerous. Both sides had tested each other. Both sides understood the power facing them. Inside the control chamber, one truth settled into every human mind. This was only the beginning. The real battle had not started yet, but it would, because the aliens had not come to talk. They had come to stop what humans had created, and humanity, standing behind a machine built from failure and rebuilt with determination, was ready to defend it, no matter the cost. The silence after the first exchange felt heavier than the battle itself. Both sides now understood the truth. This was no simple encounter. The abandoned prototype had become something far more dangerous than its creators expected, and humanity was standing behind it, ready to defend it. The alien fleet slowly adjusted formation, spreading wider across the darkness of space. Larger ships moved into defensive positions, while smaller vessels surrounded them like a protective wall. They were analyzing, calculating, trying to understand what had changed. Their sensors scanned the human-controlled ship again and again. The readings made no sense to them. The structure was theirs, but the energy patterns were not. The weapon systems were unfamiliar. The control signals carried human logic. It was no longer their machine. It was something new. Inside the control chamber, tension remained high. Human operators watched every movement on the screens. The AI ran hundreds of combat predictions each second, adjusting shield positions and targeting paths. It learned from the first attack, improving defense instantly. The ship felt alive, responding smoothly to every threat. It was not just following commands anymore. It was thinking, protecting, adapting. The alien fleet made the next move. A communications signal reached the human-controlled ship. Not words, not language, but structured data patterns. The AI translated the intent. Identification request. Ownership claim. Return the unit. Humans stare at the message in silence. The creators were demanding their ship back. Military leaders exchanged looks. No one spoke for a moment. Then one officer gave the order. Ignore the claim. The ship was no longer theirs. It belonged to humanity now. The AI responded with a simple signal of refusal. Short, clear, final. The alien fleet reacted immediately. Their formation tightened. Energy gathered around multiple ships at once. This time, it would not be a single warning shot. It would be a coordinated attack. The first wave came fast. Beams of energy shot across space from several directions, aimed to overwhelm the shields. The AI moved faster than any human mind could follow. Defense layers shifted and overlapped, absorbing the impacts. The ship trembled under the force, but it did not break. Inside, alarms flashed, but systems held steady. The machine learned from every hit. It adapted shield frequency, redirected power, predicted the next attack. Then humanity answered. The human-controlled ship fired back, not randomly, but strategically, targeting the gaps between enemy vessels. Energy pulses struck near their formations, forcing them to scatter. The alien ships had superior numbers, but they followed strict patterns. Humans did not. The AI used human battle strategies. Unpredictable, aggressive, constantly changing. It attacked angles the aliens did not expect. It moved in ways their calculations could not predict. The balance of power shifted slowly. The aliens had better numbers. Humanity had better adaptation. During the fight, something unexpected happened. One alien ship drifted too close. The human-controlled vessel fired a direct pulse. Not full power, just enough. The impact hit the alien hull and tore through its outer defense. The ship lost stability and drifted away from formation. For the first time, alien technology had been damaged by its own design, improved by humans. Shock spread through the enemy fleet. They adjusted quickly, but the moment had already changed everything. They now understood. Humanity had not just repaired the prototype. Humanity had perfected it. Inside the control chamber, the realization hit hard. They were not just surviving. They were winning moments of advantage. The abandoned failure had become stronger than its original creators ever intended. The AI continued evolving during the battle. It learned alien weapon timing, their formation logic, their defensive reactions. With every second, it grew more effective. It was no longer reacting. It was controlling the flow of the fight. But then the alien fleet changed tactics. Larger ships moved forward. Their energy signatures rose far higher than before. Heavy weapon systems activated. This was their true power. The first heavy blast struck the human-controlled ship directly. The impact shook the entire structure. Inside, lights flickered, alarms screamed, and the floor vibrated violently. The shields held, but barely. Energy reserves dropped quickly. The next hit could break them. Humans realized the truth. This fleet had not used its full strength yet, and now it was ready. The AI responded instantly. It redirected power from non-essential systems, strengthened the shield core, and calculated a counterstrike. A risky one. Human operators hesitated. The plan required moving directly toward the enemy formation. Closer than before. Dangerous, but necessary. The command was given. The ship accelerated forward, cutting through space faster than the alien fleet expected. They tried to adjust, but the move broke their formation. Human unpredictability again. At close range, the human-controlled ship fired a focused energy wave straight into the center of their defensive line. The blast forced multiple ships to scatter, breaking their coordination. For the first time, the alien fleet lost control of the battlefield. Silence followed for a brief moment. Both sides paused, reassessing. And in that pause, a realization spread among the alien commanders. Humans were different. They did not follow perfect logic. They did not stop after failure. They improved. They adapted. They turned abandoned weakness into terrifying strength. This was not just about one ship anymore. This was about the species controlling it. If humans could do this with one broken prototype, what could they do in the future? Fear entered alien calculations for the first time. Back inside the human-controlled vessel, the AI processed the battlefield. It saw hesitation. It saw uncertainty in enemy movement. The creators of the prototype were no longer confident. They were cautious. And that meant one thing. Humanity had changed the balance. The aliens had come to stop a mistake. But now they were facing a species that made mistakes into weapons. And as the power core pulsed stronger with every passing second, one truth echoed across the silent battlefield. The galaxy was beginning to understand humanity was not weak. Humanity was unpredictable, and that made them terrifying. The battle had reached a point where neither side could pretend this was just a recovery mission anymore. It had become a fight for control, for survival, and for the future. The alien fleet floated in scattered formation, their movements slower now, more careful. They had tested their strength and discovered something unexpected. The failed prototype they once abandoned had become a machine capable of standing against them, and the species controlling it refused to back down. Inside the human-controlled ship, the control chamber was filled with tension and determination. Every system was running at peak level. The power core pulsed brighter than it ever had before, sending waves of energy through weapons and shields. Human operators watched the battlefield while the AI calculated thousands of possibilities every second. The machine was no longer just reacting. It was leading. It predicted enemy moves, shifted defenses before attacks landed, and guided human decisions. Humans were not just controlling the ship anymore. They were working with it. The alien fleet regrouped slowly. Larger ships moved to the front again, forming a wall of heavy defense. Smaller ships spread around them, creating a layered formation designed to trap and overwhelm the human-controlled vessel. Their strategy was clear: end the fight quickly, destroy the prototype before it could grow stronger. The first heavy strike came without warning. Multiple beams fired at once, converging toward the human ship. The AI reacted instantly, moving shields and redirecting power. The impacts shook the entire structure. Inside, humans struggled to stay steady as alarms echoed through the chamber. Energy reserves dropped dangerously. The system warned that the shields could not survive many more direct hits. For the first time, fear returned. Not fear of losing the ship, but fear of losing Earth. Because if this machine failed, there would be nothing left strong enough to protect the planet. The AI processed that possibility, and then it made a decision. A new combat pattern appeared across the screens. Not defensive, offensive, risky. The plan required full power release from the core and a direct push through the alien formation. Human operators hesitated. This would drain most of the ship's energy. If it failed, there would be no second chance. Silence filled the chamber for a moment. Then the command was given. Trust the system. The power core surged. Energy flooded through every circuit. The ship accelerated forward, faster than ever before, breaking through the outer defense line. Alien ships reacted too late. The human-controlled vessel moved unpredictably, shifting direction, firing controlled bursts to force enemy ships apart. It was not trying to destroy them. It was breaking their coordination. At the center of the alien formation, the ship released its strongest pulse yet. A massive wave of energy spread outward, shaking multiple enemy vessels at once. Their formation collapsed. Smaller ships lost control, drifting away from the main fleet. The larger ships struggled to maintain position. For the first time, the alien commanders faced something they had never experienced: chaos. Humans fought differently. They did not aim for perfect order. They created confusion and used it as a weapon. The AI had learned that from them, and now it used it perfectly. The alien fleet hesitated again. Their attacks slowed. Their movements became defensive. They were no longer certain they could win without heavy loss. And this was only one human control machine. Inside the ship, energy levels dropped after the massive pulse. Systems warned of low reserves. The ship could not continue fighting like this for long. But the battlefield had changed. The alien fleet was no longer advancing toward Earth. They were holding position, reassessing. The message was clear without words. Humanity was not an easy target. Humanity could fight back. A communication signal appeared again from the alien side. This time it carried different patterns. Not a demand, not a claim, a question, identification, intent, future action. They wanted to understand. For the first time, humans were not being treated as insects or obstacles. They were being acknowledged as a force. The control chamber went silent as leaders made a decision. The response was simple. Humanity did not seek war, but humanity would defend itself and would never return the ship. The AI transmitted the message clearly, combining human logic and alien data structure. The reply was not immediate. The alien fleet stayed still, scanning, analyzing. Minutes passed in silence. Then slowly, the larger ships began to turn away. One by one, the formation shifted direction. The smaller vessels regrouped around them. Their energy levels lowered. Weapons powered down. They were leaving. Not defeated, but no longer attacking. They had learned enough. Humanity was no longer unknown. Humanity was now marked. Not as prey, as a rising power. Inside the human-controlled ship, relief spread quietly. No cheering, no celebration, just silence and exhaustion. They had survived. Earth was safe. For now, the ship slowly turned back toward home. Energy reserves were low, but stable. The AI reduced power usage and guided the journey calmly. It had completed its purpose. Protector, defender, partner. As Earth appeared in the distance, one truth settled into every human mind. This was only the beginning. The galaxy had seen them. The aliens had tested them, and they had not fallen. The abandoned prototype had become humanity's first step into a much larger universe. Back on the planet, people would not know what almost happened. They would see the sky, live their lives, unaware of how close everything came to changing forever. But the leaders, the scientists, the soldiers, they knew. Humanity had crossed a line. They were no longer alone, and they were no longer weak. The alien creators had abandoned a failed ship. Humans had rebuilt it, improved it, fought with it, and now the galaxy itself understood something new. Humans did not fear failure. They transformed it, and any species capable of turning broken machines into unstoppable power was a species the universe would never ignore again.